Alrighty, it's Griffin, it's AimieW, we're on Death Aura. This is Griffin in the bottom right, and this is AimieW in the top left. Both of these players playing Terran. Mirror matchups can be interesting because it's very easy to compare the progress of both players. And both of them at present, as you'd expect from a mirror matchup, are doing exactly the same thing. So, Death Aura, we've seen a lot of Death Aura, and there's nothing wrong with Death Aura as a map. It has these interesting, like, sort of anti-bubulas in the middle, acceleration zone, and the anti-bubulas make stuff go faster than it normally would by a reasonable chunk. And I'd love to see a fight in one of these anti-bubulas just to kind of see what that looks like. It'd be pretty weird. Micro and stuff backward and forward at high speed. It'd be pretty insane. But it seems awfully unlikely. It's hard to tell what the point of these is, really. You know what I mean? But anyway, they speed stuff up through the center of the map. But I suppose it means that despite it being a long walk with the zigzags, you can get there quite fast if you're sending a worker across that's up to no good, or indeed just a scout or whatever. So Griffin isn't building workers. That is either a sign of something horrific about to happen, or it's just not a mistake. The orbital command is in production. So maybe he was, I don't know, in some way waiting for the Rex to finish so that he could build the orbital command. I don't know. And he's gone reactor first, which, in general, I just find slightly distasteful. It's a Reaper that's going to come out for AimieW, and presumably that Reaper is going to make its way across the map and do some scouting. Although, with that said, there is this sort of SCV heading across that's going to have a poke around. AimieW, at present, just building a CC on the low ground for his expo, as is his opponent. So, the only real difference between these builds is that AimieW has a tech lab on his barracks, and Griffin has gone for the reactor. Kind of weird. The SCV is just going to stand here and watch this other SCV build a thing. These two Marines will shoot it. They're going to chase it. Don't stand and fight with the Reaper, it'll lose. Run. Oh no, that is really disappointing. Actually fired off a shot against the unbuildable plates for reasons best known to itself. Finally the worker goes down as well there. So that was just that was all a bit weird, wasn't it? I don't know. Anyway, try not to lose Reaper to Marines. Reapers are so much faster than Marines, and they heal themselves when Marines don't. So, you can just kind of kite the Marines, fire off a shot at them, and then just run, and then come back and have another little poke. But mostly just run. That's what Reapers are best at, run. Reapers are not particularly good at standing up and fighting. Really? 3 reactors, 3 racks with reactor. So you'd have to... cancel Tech Lab. That is a relief, because that was just going to be nauseating. So this, it just looks like a rush, doesn't it? It looks like, you're going to be cranking out Marines here 5 at a time, and you're going to YOLO across the map with a whole horde of Marines with no upgrades whatsoever. The Tech Lab's finished, but no sign of combat shield or anything just yet. And Griffin with enough gas for those types of things. So AimieW, did see the reactor, did see 2 more racks being built, and might rightly expect that there is going to be some sort of Marine push. So I don't mind the bunker at the front at all. With the siege tank coming out and a starport finished up, tech-wise, AimieW is not in bad shape, and in terms of defending against Marines, won't be in bad shape either. With a bunker with a siege tank behind it, it takes quite a lot of unteched Marines to beat that. So Stim is the chosen upgrade here. Combat shield not done. AimieW has done combat shield, but is not currently researching Stim. So a bit of divergence in terms of tech paths and those types of things. Everything else looking reasonably similar for these two players. So yeah, a second barracks coming down for AimieW, and it is Griffin that has the substantially larger marine production capabilities with these 3 racks and the double reactored. Yeah, so his army supply is beginning to look worryingly high compared to AimieW's, and Aimie is going to need to get on top of that. The starport is ready with its reactor to crank out medevacs 2 at a time, but no sign of those in production just yet. We'll need them though. When you watch TVT, an awful lot of engagements comes down to the siege tank count. Who's got the most siege tanks? And oh my goodness, why? Why? What are you doing? He's just blowing up his own stuff here. Stop that! Don't, seriously, stop it! Oh my gosh, I don't know what that was about. It's just moving it now or something. I don't know. Obviously some sort of weird misclick. But yeah, it probably goes without saying, but don't shoot your own stuff in general. That's best avoided. So Griffin's got an army supply lead and is now researching combat shield. He's got stim, and once he's got some medevacs to back that up, 1 out so far, this army could be a bit scary. If he tries to push this front door though, he will simply lose his army. He doesn't really have the siege tank firepower to back this force up. There's no siege tanks built yet at all. So yeah, despite having a substantially larger army, these 3 siege tanks would just be like, oh, it'd be ugly. It'd be so nasty to see those Marines try and push into this area. So Griffin absolutely can't frontally attack. But if he's building medevacs 2 at a time, come on Griffin, come on, medevacs 2 at a time. If he were to build some medevacs, he could just load all of this into the medevacs, boost into the men and drop here and just wreck everything, just spam the T button, focused on the command center, focused on the starport, the factory. Oh, you could just kill so much. And if you drop in a sensible position, it's hard for the Terran to come up, because the Terran's units are going to have to file past here and here. So hopefully that's what he's got in mind. He's moving across the map, so it doesn't look like we're going to have to wait very long to find out. Medevac's heading out sort of up ahead. There is still stuff in production for him at home, and this is good. Never stop producing. That is the key to success. But there's only 2 medevacs here, that's a lot of Marines for only 2 medevacs. It doesn't look like he's going to load the Marines into the medevacs. And this is going. Oh no! Oh, and the stem goes down as well. Oh no! Oh no! No! Just no. Ooh, okay. Look at the losses tab. Oh gosh, 51 Marines killed there. 51 is the number. 51 dead Marines, and AimieW lost 2 units in that engagement. 2 is how many? Let's just see that again. So that'll learn him. It wasn't pretty. We didn't think it would be. It wasn't ever going to be pretty. Marines are squishy. Just like outside of StarCraft. Okay, just take away StarCraft. Picture a Marine, right? Classic Marine. All American and all. This is my rifle. This is my gun. All YOLO. Right. Picture those guys. 50 of them. And then picture a tank, an actual tank. It's an armoured bit of heavy artillery with a massive gun that shoots explosive shells. Now 4 of those tanks, then just imagine Marines running at those, wielding machine guns. No Marines, no. Just no, don't do that. Just get shot in the face by a tank. It's not going to work. So don't do that. Marines are great units, don't get me wrong, but you know, a frontal assault into sieged up tanks is literally never going to be successful. No, you need heavier firepower to beat siege tanks. Marines don't do well against siege tanks. That's kind of just how it is, and they never will. So this time it is AimieW with the move out. There's a couple of Vikings in the mix. I quite like a few Vikings in the mix in a Terran game. You need quite a few of them to one-shot a medevac, but nevertheless, you know, they will chip away at your opponent's medevacs quite nicely, and you can also do some other quite crafty stuff with them. If there's a Raven on the other side, you can focus that down straight away before it can get a disable off, before it can do anything sneaky like that. If your opponent has Liberators, which are, by the way, if you are playing Terran, that's the answer to siege tank. Liberators is what you do. If your opponent has Liberators, once the Liberators siege up in Liberation mode, the Vikings can just gun those down. So, you know, Vikings are a nice addition, but the main firepower from this army comes from these siege tanks. Now, AimieW, I don't really get why you didn't push across the map after you decimated your opponent's army. That's what I would have liked to have seen. I'd have liked to have seen a bit of a move out at that point to just go and counter attack, because you know, if you click on your own tanks, you would have seen just how many kills they had. You know, 11. It's not all of these were actually involved in that battle. 13. So, you know, just clicking through them, there's 2 with 8 kills each. 13. I don't know. Anyway, if you'd have clicked on them, you would have seen how many kills they'd got. There are, in fact, Liberators out for Griffin, which is great. And actually picking them off before this engagement is fantastic for AimieW. If the Vikings can snipe that one, then there's no longer Liberators out for Griffin. And so his opponent's siege tanks can be all the more effective. So I don't mind that exchange. Swapping the Vikings for Liberators is an exchange I would take. There are 3 siege tanks here for Griffin. They're not really far enough forward to defend this though. This batch of siege tanks up here, I quite like having maybe 1 tank up here. It's a nice thing, and maybe 1 up here. That's a good thing, but you don't really need 3. But we'll see. Those may end up being pivotal now that I've said that that's kind of a bit of overkill. The beef I have with them is your opponent can just come up here and kill this, and you've got no siege tank coverage over on this side whatsoever. So you know, these 3, I prefer one of them here and one of them here. AimieW has got something in mind, so hopefully what we're going to see is siege tank leapfrogging. So he's set up a big siege perimeter. And what he needs to do is try and draw his opponent forward. He sees this and he must recognize that that is not something you want to send your Marines into. So it really helps if you know the range of siege tanks. If you click on a tank, it dots out the range of it for you. So you know, when you've done those scans, you can dot out the range. You can see where the siege tank range ends, and you can move your stuff up to that line. But don't cross that line. You get shot. Shoot that little guy. Oh, the stim goes down, and AimieW is aiming to bait his opponent into range of his siege tanks. Does successfully bait quite a lot of the Marines in, but there's nothing to stop him moving his siege tanks up into these locations. So I'd like to see him do that. Get them a bit further forward. You know, start creeping them forward. Have a couple here, for example. Send some units around the other side, please. Surely he knows about that, doesn't he? He does. He knows that base is there. So, you know, I'd really like to see him move on that base, because he can kind of snipe that for free. Needs to siege these up. Don't go too far forward. Oh, this could be a bloodbath. This could be really nasty. So the siege tanks of AimieW just letting loose on the Marines of Griffin, and all of those Marines are now dead. So AimieW at this point, these siege tanks are in such a strong location here. I don't know why you're pulling them back. I'd have left them. I'm not. What? Why are we going home? I don't understand. I'm just going to turn up and going to kill your army, and I'm just going to go home. I'm not going to kill your bases or anything. I don't understand. I don't know why he's pulled those back. Leave those siege tanks sieged up here. Brilliant. There was no Marines left, so you load all your Marines into the medevacs, and you just drop them on top of these siege tanks. Siege tanks can't shoot stuff that's close to them because they're in siege mode. It's like the defense against, if you see somebody with a bazooka, don't run away from them. Run toward them and just hug them, and they can't shoot you, can they? Anyway. So now he goes for the medevac lift, and he's going to drop presumably into the men, but I don't, I don't know why he pulled back from here. Anyway, that's all by the by. When all of that stuff was happening, I'll tell you what wasn't happening. Any sort of macro from AimieW. The production tab, I did notice at the time, was completely empty. And that's why he's got 7,000 minerals in the bank. So I'd like to see this production tab contain, for example, 6 barracks. Needs to start dropping stuff out of here, and he can actually do quite a lot. I'd love to see this stuff in the middle of the map moving forward to complement this, because he's dropping stuff out up here. He has to assume his opponent is going to respond to that, and that's a good time to just push the front door. So he's going to focus down the CC. I'm not sure about that. Look how many things that he did some damage to, but didn't kill any of them. So damaged. Had he focused on these, he cancels those upgrades, and that would have been a really useful thing to do. I'd also love to see him just kill this. He just needs to stand here and kill it. Dearie me, what is going on? Anyway, there's an awful lot of siege tanks in the middle of the map, so don't try and walk through there. The upgrades are going to finish up here, and that will be a useful thing. So at that point, Griffin will go 2-2 compared to AimieW's 1-1. More Liberators coming out, and that's fine. AimieW had an opportunity to finish this game and just didn't take it, and I absolutely don't understand. When his siege tanks were this far forward, doing damage even to this barracks, why he pulled back from that point, I don't understand. His opponent absolutely couldn't come out into the, there was a lot of siege tanks. Anything that had tried to come through here would have got absolutely obliterated. So why not just stay there? I don't understand that. Anyway, there are battle cruisers in production. So he has 3 starports, no less, with the tech labs. 4 starports, but 3 with tech labs, and he's got the fusion core, so he can build battle cruisers 3 at a time. He's got a lot of money, but he is supply capped. So needs to free up some supply here. Wouldn't mind him just clicking his Marines into this location to kill that, or clicking the Marines into this location to kill that. And then he can go back to battlecruiser production. 3-3 is going to finish up for Griffin's Marines, and that will make them really feisty. +3 stim Marines have such a high DPS, it's painful. There's the scan, and he sees how far back his opponent is, so he can move his siege tanks to here, and as long as he's got a medevac up here to give him vision, then Griffin cannot move forward into it. Medevac's loading up. So what is going to happen here? Let's, vision of Griffin. He doesn't know that his opponent is parked right outside. Aimie is about to find out that there is a mine in base here. Sees these units, and he's got some stuff sieged up. So I'm not sure what these Liberators are doing, but I think they're going to die shortly if he doesn't move them. There's a lot of Marines are going to kill those pretty handily. So was it just a ploy, a distraction? But needs to siege the siege tanks up. Get them sieged. Siege! No! Oh my goodness, the Marine stim forward could just snipe all of these tanks, but he's not focused them, and he's just oh no. Finally Griffin does manage to do it. He comes forward. with just a massively inefficient trade. Yeah, so that, you know, he almost could have done that for free. Where was the battlecruiser? Where did it go? Oh, it's over here. So finally, this best gets sniped. If nothing else, are there battlecruisers in production 3 at a time? There aren't. Look, you've got 11,000 in the bank, AimieW. What are you doing? Build some stuff. Production. No, he loses the battlecruiser. Oh, the pen. Right. 11 Marines at a time being built for Griffin. And I think he's just going to march across the map and potentially win. Are there siege tanks at home for AimieW still? It doesn't look like it. So AimieW might well snatch defeat from the jaws of victory in this game. Now, all these are damaged and the medevacs are over here with full energy. Yeah, he's going to ignore that. It doesn't really matter. There's too many Marines here for battlecruisers to fight. He needs siege tanks. He needs splash damage against this. Widow mines could do fantastically if he has them in the right places, burrowed. You know, so one on its own isn't quite going to cut it. You need a couple at least to actually kill the Marines, not just damage them. So this one is going to need to burrow as well. These two are going to need to burrow. But with those widow mines burrowed, he could potentially really get some hurt on this band of Marines. But it does take it takes more than one shot, unfortunately. So that widow mine needs to burrow pretty quickly. I don't know. He is managing to whittle down the forces of Griffin. I mean, quite a lot has been lost here. Another widow mine hit onto these is going to do quite a lot of damage too. But unfortunately, AimieW's forces are just coming out one at a time. If AimieW can just get these mines burrowed up in sensible positions without them getting focused down, he could potentially win. At this stage, the battlecruisers can beat this. But I don't think he's got upgrades for the battlecruisers, whereas these are 3-3, which is pretty savage, to be honest. So, you know, with Stim, they can actually kill these battlecruisers pretty fast. What Aimie really could have done with the way he could have done with doing that engagement was to use the Yamato cannons on the battlecruisers. If he has it, does he? Oh, he doesn't. So Yamato cannon, you research here at the fusion core, and it's a big like single hit blast from a battlecruiser. Yamato cannons on the medevacs would have been the way to do it. One Yamato cannon each, and the medevacs are all dead. And then the battlecruisers have a chance of holding their own. But, you know, it's the 3-3 really that's dealing out the pen. The battlecruisers just don't have any upgrades. And Marines, the DPS from this many Marines is savage. So it looks like this game is over. You know, yeah, it was a game, all right. Now a siege tank comes out, but it's far too little too late. There are 3 battlecruisers here. With SCVs repairing them, they could trade well, but you know, with it's just the DPS is so high. Tactical jump to here, very interesting. Griffin's still spamming the stim button, has probably done more damage to his own units than AimieW has. This last battlecruiser is going to come forward to its death, fight to the last man and all that, but I think we are going to see the GG. There it is. I'm just going to return to the game briefly just so I can check the units lost tab. So yeah, it got pretty ugly in the end. Units killed, 306 Marines killed. Gnarly.